Word from Premier Kathleen Wynne that she knew she would not be Premier come Election Day shocked voters and a great many Liberals too. Reactions ranged from respectful admiration to fury. Joining us now for their perspectives, Tim Murphy, co-chair of the Liberal election campaign, Joanne Davis, Liberal candidate in University Rosedale, and Mark Keeley, chief advocate at the public affairs firm Keeley & Associates, and a volunteer for the Liberals on 20 election campaigns over 40 years. Good to have all of you around our table here at TVO tonight. You may have heard the Premier had an announcement on the weekend. It was fairly dramatic, and let's just play a little snippet of it now before we have our conversation. Sheldon, go.
So I'm just going to admit this is a hard thing to do, just off the top. Just going to say that. On June 7th, voters will elect a new government. I don't know who voters will choose. That is up to them. But I'm pretty sure that it won't be me. After Thursday, I will no longer be Ontario's Premier. And I am okay with that. The more Liberal MPPs that we send to Queen's Park on June 7th, the less likely it becomes that either Doug Ford or the NDP will be able to form a majority government. By voting Liberal, you can keep the next government, Conservative or NDP, from acting too extremely one way or the other.
Tim, I presume you were part of the gathering that made the decision to go with that. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought you were going to start with hard questions.
I'm leading the witness here, as it were. Whose idea was it?
It was the Premier's.
It was her idea to do this? What was the feedback around the table when she said that?
Well, I think you heard her speak to it, which is, look, the objective of the leader in the campaign is to elect as many Liberal MPPs as possible, including Joanne Davis in University Rosedale, a stupendous candidate who all your voters in the riding of University Rosedale should vote for, because she represents, you know, a commitment to the community, a dedication to education.
She'll do the pitch for herself later, I'm sure.
I think it helps to have others who recognize skill and talent speak to it as well, and I'm sure
but in any event,
Mark will agree that she is a stupendous
How long did the meeting go for?
Well, I mean, look, these discussions happen over a while and a series of meetings. I mean, look, as the Premier said, you know, we were looking to try and change the narrative a bit in the campaign. I mean, obviously, you know, coming into it's a fixed election date, so we came into this election process. Frankly, you know, we were second, but the dynamic of change was very strong. The dynamic of change in government was very strong, and there was dissatisfaction with Kathleen. We thought, actually, when you talk about the actual policies of the government, people are very supportive of them. You know, the OHIP plus, the investment in education, free tuition, the job rate, economic growth, minimum wage, extraordinarily popular agenda. And the hope was that we could then have people be reminded of that Kathleen Wynne was the leader of that, and be able to use that to combine to a better vote result. Didn't happen over the course of the first couple of weeks. Then we were looking, obviously, to the debate to be a change maker in the narrative. As you said to her, she did very, very well in that, arguably won that debate.
That's what the polls said.
And the numbers didn't move. And so the responsibility to elect as many MPPs as possible continues to be the primary obligation of the leader. And so she came to the table and said, I need to find a way to elect as many Liberal MPPs as possible. I'm in the way, so let's get me out of the way.
Did anybody say to her, that's a dumb idea?
Well, I'm not going to go into the toing and froing. I think at the end of the day, you know, people came to the conclusion that we needed something to, you know, change the narrative, frankly, potentially shock the voters, make people think about it, because, you know, we've seen this before, right? I mean, that, you know, as you pile into that final week, you'll see media attention starts focusing on the two people in the lead, and the third party, whoever that is, tends to get less attention. So it's about trying to drive a reconsideration of that, and to use something, you know, a bit different to say, hey, think about it again. You need to think about, in the riding of University Rosedale, for example,
well, why don't I
to
ask
get a
her?
Joanne Davis.
Let's just ask. When did you find out about this?
Well, really the same time everybody else found out about it, on the weekend.
No heads up ahead of time?
No, but I have to say, in terms of the impact for us on the ground in University of Rosedale, our conversations have largely been local. And really what this announcement allowed us to do was to focus there. And we were having Liberals that were saying, I really like you as a candidate. You know, you've been representing University of Rosedale as a local trustee for the last 8 years. I love what you've been doing. I can't vote for Kathleen Wynne. And this allowed us to then have those authentic discussions. She's an authentic leader. She wants us to be able to have authentic discussions, and now we can.
You've been door knocking since this announcement, obviously.
Yes.
Can you tell if it's made any difference at all?
It seems to, at least the doors we've been at. So we have had Liberals that are now saying at the door that, yes, they're now going to be voting Liberals. And we're having others who were undecided. And there are still lots of undecideds out there, as we know. But they're now saying that they're paying more attention at who their local candidates are. And if that's what they're looking at, then I feel quite strong in my candidacy.
Had you been given a heads up that this announcement was coming ahead of time, what would your advice to the Premier have been in terms of whether she ought to do it?
Well, I don't know that I'm one to be giving advice to the Premier. I think that she needs to do what she feels is right for her as the leader. She's the leader of the party. She has far more experience than I do to know what's the right thing for her. So she's done the right thing for her, and I think she's done the right thing for local candidates who are now able to speak to their candidacy.
What was your reaction when you heard?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, I've known Tim for 40 years. We're buddies. We always will be buddies. I've known David Hurley for 40 years, and we're always going to be buddies. Joanne, I think you're a great candidate. I think this is wonderful, and I'm glad you're running and that you put your name on this ballot. Let me give you a bit of a stream of consciousness here, Steve. I've been in this business for 41 years. I've had a tremendous experience across this country on campaigns, as Tim will tell you, and as many people in this party will tell you. I think I know politics extraordinarily well, and I was confused on Saturday. And I'm telling you there, not too many people would argue the fact that Mark Healy is A, a nice guy, B, a really big Buffalo Bills fan, and C, loves the Toronto Blue Jays. And I went to Detroit to watch the Blue Jays, and I was trying to watch Saturday when I thought they were going to win, and my phone would not stop ringing. And I had to walk out of my seat to go stand by the gate to go out to hear people say to me, this is the dumbest move ever. Keeley, what is going on? How could I be anything but surprised or confused or shocked when I'm thinking this is in the dying days of a campaign that a leader of a political party would say, I'm stepping aside and you're free to vote your conscience. To me, I can't abide it. And not only can I not abide it, I would have counseled, if I was on the campaign committee, to say, don't do this, Premier. Fight to the end.
Don't do it because why?
Because I'm telling you why. The essence of campaigns is about hope. And she's dashed hope. She says, we're not going to win. I'm telling you, I'm comfortable with not winning. How does that make me, as a campaign volunteer, feel about wanting to work for my candidate in my riding?
Well, I can tell you how it makes our volunteers feel. So with all due respect, as somebody who's running in this campaign and working with volunteers on a daily basis and out canvassing with them on the daily basis, we all read the polls. So it's not like, gee, we were wondering how we were doing provincially. But the reality is the focus on the polls is provincially. So that local voice and how you're doing in the local riding is lost. What this has given us is it's given us hope in those ridings like University of Rosedale, where we know that we can and should be winning this riding.
Well, here's tweet number 2. Let me just put this in here. Want to bring up tweet number 2? This is a guy named John Cruikshank on Twitter saying, I think if I were a Liberal candidate or volunteer today, I would feel insulted and that I have just wasted my time. Joanne, do you feel any of that?
No.
This guy's wrong? Because I've got to tell you, I've heard this from lots of people, obviously. It's there on Twitter, but I have heard it anecdotally from a lot of other people that they say, how do I knock on a door now, say vote for me, but my leader's already given up?
I don't know. I can only tell you again, I am running in University of Rosedale. We've got a great team that was a huge team that was out there knocking on doors on the weekend. We're knocking on doors today. And we are hearing both Liberals and undecideds at the door saying, I am now looking locally. And I'm also, I mean, the reality is at the doors that I've been at, people are nervous about what the NDP and what the Conservatives can do. In University of Rosedale, you've got Conservative voters who are saying, I can't vote for a party who doesn't have a platform yet. Like we talk about things not having happened before. We've got an election in 3 days and we've got a party who still doesn't have a platform. So a lot of Conservative voters don't know what their party's going to do and frankly feel disenfranchised by that party. Then we've got progressives in University of Rosedale who are saying they're progressives. I'm progressive, but the reason why I'm Liberal and not NDP is that I think it's okay if we want to be expanding daycare for families that we use for profits. I think it's okay that if things are happening in the education system and teachers go on strike, that we legislate them back. People are missing that middle ground voice, and they want to be ensuring it's there. And I can tell you on the doors yesterday, they want to make sure that those middle ground voices that are there for pragmatic reasons to advance some of the great causes that the Liberals have been advancing for the last 15 years.
Tim. So look, the Thelma and Louise strategy was clearly not going to work, right? I mean, the notion that you just keep going, driving the same path and don't change, well, we know what happened at the end of that movie.
Where that metaphor was going. Okay.
Yes.
So driving over a cliff to
you know what, and
oblivion.
there's no sequel to a Thelma and Louise movie. So it just is not sensible to say we charge ahead and Thelma and Louise somehow survive. So the challenge is, look, what we have is voters who are looking out at this electoral choice, and you're hearing it from a candidate who's knocking on hundreds and thousands of doors, who are going, Doug Ford, oh my God, right? I mean, this is a shallow pool. And the NDP, we know what happened with them in government before, and the quality of candidates is a bit shocking, and they have policy positions that are programmatic and ideological and not practical. And we had a government that had been in power 5 years under Kathleen, 10 before with Dalton, and people were concluding we want some change. So the question is, in that environment, you have to give them a choice to be able to focus on their local race, to focus on quality candidates, because I am very happy with the quality of candidates that we have across this province, including incredible candidates like Joanne Davis and University Rosedale.
Okay, we get it. All right, Mr. Keeley, come on in here. You buying any of this?
Well, it's not that I'm not buying it. I mean, I think these are noble comments. The point of this exercise from the start is we've had 4 years to think about what we were going to do when we were fighting a campaign. We knew that this date was coming. Here's what I think. People called me at the weekend and said, "Oh, Mark, this is courageous." I said, I'll tell you what's courageous. Courageous is saying I stick up for the fact that we are the government that brought in prescription drug reform and saved billions of dollars of costs in the system. We're the government that said this is courageous too. We're the government that said we're going to put in a long-term energy plan that is a marvelous program in the longer term for this province. We're the province that brought in cap and trade. And here's what I'm thinking. It's not that. It's that we're unable, and the inability of this government to communicate. I've said this to all of your colleagues in caucus, Joanne, said, why aren't you guys bragging more? We should be bragging about what we've done as a government, and it's all been almost secretive, Stephen. That's the issue that I think. So we need a better job of communications before the election so that we could set the themes.
Let's do an analogy here.
Sure.
You were with John Turner in 1988.
Yes, I was.
That was an election that he knew he was going to lose. With 5 days to go, he knew he was going to lose it, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm glad you asked me that question. Okay. I'll tell you why.
Actually, I haven't asked the question yet.
I know what you're going to say.
Okay, go ahead then.
Here's what you're going to say. You're going to say, if he knew, why wouldn't he just say, I give up?
He did not do that.
No, because he said, bleed with me. Fight, because I'm going to be a prophet on this issue on free trade. And damn it, he is today. So I'm just saying this is the issue that we as Liberals, we shouldn't be standing back and say, walk away because we're bleeding in the ridings. I think we need to fight right to the end with a leader that we put in there. Because that, to me, we're the only party that has a delegated convention. So that means the Liberals get to go to a place and actually vote in secret for the person that they want to see as their leader. This process, as a leader, if we look at it from a political perspective, it lays to waste that program. So I think she should be saying, I want to stick right to the bitter end. And you know what? People will fight with her because they know historically that that's the courageous thing to do.
Tim, you are a backroom guy, and so I'm going to quote to you another backroom guy. You know Paul Rhodes. His dad was a cabinet minister in Bill
Davis's
Davis's
government.
government.
Advice from conservatives on liberal strategy.
It's not necessarily all bad advice. Paul Rhodes, who tweeted on the weekend, he worked for Mike Harris when he was Premier of Ontario. I've worked for leaders who lost. Each one campaigned with dignity and honor until the last day. Ontario Liberals should be ashamed. What would you say to Paul Rhodes?
Well, I really, as I said, appreciate advice from an active conservative partisan on how best to run a Liberal campaign.
But here's an active Liberal partisan who's giving the same advice.
Well, I guess we disagree. So we've got fundamentally, as I've said from the beginning, the responsibility of the leader of the party is to elect as many MPs in a federal case or MPPs in a provincial case as is possible. So you have an environment where you say, what are the things strategically and tactically you can do to achieve that outcome? There may be disagreements about whether one path or another is better, or whether you can go back and fix history, which obviously there is some challenge to. But at the end of the day, decisions were made to say, this is, given the environment we're in, what we need to do to give an opportunity for great candidates like Joanne Davis and University Rosedale to be elected.
At a certain point, this may not be helpful.
To be elected. And it's about giving them the tools. And you know what I'm hearing from one of those great candidates is it's a tool that is giving her a chance to succeed. And you know what we're hearing from other candidates? It's giving them a tool that is allowing them a chance to succeed. So let me go through a couple examples. We have seen massive uptick in sign requests, a massive increase in digital identification
Since
of
Saturday
voters.
morning?
Since Saturday morning. Huge increase on identified Liberals as people are canvassing. So you know what? I'm prepared to take the results that we're seeing reported to us on the ground. And so, you know, that's, at the end of the day, that's, you're going to be judged by the result, and I understand there's a problematic result coming.
Well, and what I'm also hearing at the door, I mean, Doug Ford has said he wants to eradicate the Liberals, and what I'm hearing from voters in University of Rosedale is they don't want the Liberals to be eradicated. They feel that our Queen's Park will be stronger if all three parties are
I
representative.
haven't heard Doug Ford say that. I've heard him say that the NDP would be 10 times or 1,000 times worse than the Liberals. That's what I've heard
Early
him say.
on in the campaign, so I don't know if he's changed his tune on it, but the reality is what I'm hearing at the door is people don't want the Liberals to be eradicated. They do see, to your point, they do see what the Liberals have achieved over the last 15 years. We've got the strongest economy in the G7
Okay,
after California and New York, strongest for foreign investment.
We know the
But
record.
these-
The Premier just gave it.
but these
The Premier
things,
just gave it. But here's the thing. In many of these ridings, this is where I need some clarification on the strategy. In many of these ridings, the Premier has said, you disaffected Liberals, you wavering Liberals, you Liberals who are at the moment are going to the NDP because you think only the NDP can stop Doug Ford, come home to us. Come home and vote Liberal, and you won't be sorry. We'll get a bit of a cohort at Queen's Park anyway. If you take those votes away from the NDP, how does that not then empower Doug Ford?
No, that's wrong. Absolutely wrong.
I'm all ears. Go ahead.
Well, but let's take an example like University Rosedale, right? You take 15% out of the Liberals and give it straight over to the NDP, it elects the Tory. The same is true in St. Paul's. You go to Michael Coteau, you go to great candidates like Michael Coteau and Shelley Carroll and you know, any of the string in those ridings where it's really an a conservative and liberal bastion.
That's where the
race. That's where NDP votes elect a Tory.
But that's where those are liberal NDP fights.
No, liberal conservative.
Excuse me, those are liberal Tory fights.
Absolutely. In
What
every
about-
one of those ridings, an NDP vote elects a Tory.
So if that's the case, and listen, I know that math very well, and we've done a deep dive in every single riding across this province in our analysis for
Your
our
company
clients.
has.
Our company, because our clients are saying something's going to happen, we need to know. So you know, with great respect to you too, Joanne, on your comments about popular support, it only accrues to the leaders. When they talk about popular support, everybody's saying you're going to vote Liberal because of Kathleen Wynne, you're going to vote Conservative because of Doug Ford, you're going to vote NDP because of Andrea Horwath.
I'm actually hearing the opposite in this election, Mark.
Absolutely.
What I'm hearing, because I've gone door to door in University of Rosedale, where I hear there are actually 4 really good candidates running for office. I've heard the opposite. I've heard people wanting to vote Liberal, but won't because of the leader. I've heard people who want to vote Tory, but won't because of the leader. And I've heard people who have never voted NDP and are kind of unsure about that step.
So I was going to go to my point.
Okay.
And my point was that if you're going to do that, then at the outset of your campaign, concentrate on the ridings where you know your local candidates are going to win, and they're strong. Michael Gravel, Bob Shirelli, Charles Sousa, Jim Bradley. The list could go on and on and on. There are good candidates who have been in government served and candidates who are seeking election. I think it's great that we should be doing that. That, to me, you referenced John Turner, is the essence of what John Turner has been talking about for years on Magna Carta. Then if this is the new normal, let's change the way we do campaigns. What they used to do 800 years ago was they would fight at every single door in every single constituency, and then and only then would they go to Queen's Park or to Westminster and say, you're going to be my leader. That's how, if we're going to do that, then maybe this is Tim, maybe this is a stroke of genius where you should be getting all sorts of kudos, you and David, for what you've done, that maybe this is how we're going to fight elections. But right now, I know this, you know this very well, that campaigns are on 3 things. The leader first, which is why we put tons and tons and tons of money into the central campaign. Mm-hmm. The leader first, second, the party, and third, your local candidate. I'm just saying, I think that if we're gonna change this, we should have thought of this a month and a half ago, rather than doing it 4 days before election, because it's confusing people. I don't think we're giving voters enough credit that they're going to be angry, and I think they might make us pay for this, and in my opinion, this very, very wrong decision.
Have you been canvassing at all with any of the candidates?
Yes.
Yeah. What parts of the province?
So in my home riding of Mississauga Lakeshore and in other ridings where candidates have been saying to me, would you come and help? Sure.
What have you been hearing?
Not good. But I can tell you, I know this. I know my candidate in Mississauga Lakeshore, Charles Souza, outleads his party. So
he's more popular than the party.
He's more popular than the party right now.
Can you imagine, though, that if nothing's worked so far to get the Liberals out of third place, that a Hail Mary pass might be necessary?
No, that's what I'm saying. If this is the new normal, I concede. If this is the new normal, I'll concede. But I'm telling you, I wanted to have a great weekend with some glorious weather, watching the Blue Jays, and my phone wouldn't stop ringing.
Trust me, I would have loved that weekend too.
The only thing I'd add to that answer, though, the fourth thing you didn't mention, which is partly in terms of how we're running campaigns, is polls. And I think the only negative for me around the announcement is that it's based on polls, and I think polls and their coverage by the media is just taking over elections, and we're not allowing people to choose on the 7th of June. For me, that's a very negative thing, and especially since you've got polls of differing credibility, but they're all reported on as if they've all got the same level of credibility. I think that's an issue.
Exactly. Like I saw a poll, CBC had done something where they said the Liberals will get one seat. Well, name the seat. They can't. They just say one seat.
Our pollster can. Advanced symbolics.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say what it is because
I'm not buying
I
it.
can't buy it.
I don't think so. I think it's a little
either.
premature for your advance.
Tell us this, Tim. What do you think this? I think we all understand now because you two have explained it. Why the Premier took the step that she did. Okay, we understand it. Mark and others are very much opposed to it, but we understand the thinking behind it. Are you concerned that it muddies up the Liberal brand at all?
No.
Why not?
Well, I mean, I think because it actually is trying to separate the leader from the brand, and to say, I mean, look, there is a version of this strategy that frankly the Tories are running right now. There is, to your point, people the enthusiasm for Doug Ford among even hard-bitten Tories is pretty thin. This is a shallow pool of a leader, right, who could barely survive, from a content perspective, a debate. The guy who's too afraid of 24 minutes of content to come on your show, right? And so what are they doing? It's rallies, it's limited exposure to the media, because they're not prepared to have him, like Kathleen was on your show. So they have got a version of the own strategy, which is they're hiding the leader, right? Or we'll put the team around him. So what we're doing is saying we're putting the team up front, hugely qualified candidates, in riding by riding by riding, and say, okay, we're getting the leader out of the way so you can concentrate locally, you can get elected, you can be the balance of power and hold either a Doug Ford accountable, because, my God, that guy could be a premier, or an NDP accountable because they just don't have the ability to run this party.
I got to jump in. People don't. All of us are. The three of us at this table are highly competitive when it comes to campaigns. We want to win. Everybody who says I want to be involved in a campaign wants to win. Nobody wants to say I'll just park my vote because they did this last-minute Hail Mary pass. It just doesn't cut it. That's not the essence of politics. They really do say it's a blood sport. And I can't tell you how competitive people are. And all we've done is said, you know what? All that good work that we had done.
Normal voters don't think that way.
I'm not saying normal voters.
In my
note, I was talking about I was talking about volunteers who got to go and get out the vote.
I'm happy to be judged by what candidates are hearing.
How would you characterize party unity right now?
Well, for the number of calls I got, which are in the hundreds, I think people are not happy.
You got hundreds of calls?
Hundreds of calls.
From people who...
From people.
Not on side with this strategy?
Not on side.
What do they plan to do about it?
Well, that's what I've been saying. Like, what are you going to do about it? Well, I think we got to...
So presumably they're all going to vote Liberal, and you're encouraging them to vote Liberal.
Sure,
so there you go.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm just suggesting I don't like this plan. And I think that if the party,
there's nothing better than talking about it in public.
Well, I'm not gonna fight Liberals on this one, Tim, and that's not the essence of this conversation. And this is not a debate about Liberal versus Liberal. This is about this party having a great track record, and saying that we should be celebrating that track record right from the start. And that's what I'm supporting this party for.
100% support that.
I am
And
inferring, though, from your previous comment, you don't like the fact that he's gone public with his opposition to this.
I am happy that, and I've been through this, a few times before. There will be a discussion and a postmortem after the fact, and that's all fine, right? I only have one thing that matters to me right now. I'm a volunteer in this. I have one thing that matters. I want to elect as many Liberals as possible, and I want to get whatever is in the way of that out of the way, and that includes disputes among Liberals.
And we need to celebrate that. I think we need to celebrate disputes.
Well, and the other thing we need to be ensuring is that the outcome that we've got here is good for Ontario. Like, we're talking, I know a lot about the Liberal Party.
Like this candidate, she's good.
Yeah.
This is about, it's about the Liberal Party. That's what this segment is about. But in the end, this election is going to have real results and real impacts on families, on schools, on hospital, on housing. Those are all real things. And that's why there are certainly at least people on the ground in University Rosedale, they're worried when they hear that the NDP want to be increasing property taxes on small businesses, because that's what makes our riding great, are all the small businesses.
NDP's in first place in your riding right now, in the polls. You're polling, right? You're polling in your riding?
Well, I'll listen to what you have to say. What we've been told is that we're neck and neck. So
It's definitely neck and neck. It's definitely a three-way race, neck and neck and neck, but the NDP is slightly ahead of you right now.
Oh, I don't, look, you know what?
nothing I can do about it be going out and going to do what we have been doing, which is knocking at doors and talking with people. So regardless of what the polls say, I still believe that the only important one is the 7th of June.
Correct.
Who always used to say that?
You tell me.
John Napier Turner.
There's only one poll that matters. Well, he used to say two, the Pope at the time.
When it was John Paul II.
That's right.
Right on. I know you all love, admire, and adore a certain, I think he's still a Liberal, Warren Kinsella. Warren Kinsella tweets a lot, and you want to bring this one up? Warren Kinsella has written on Twitter, if Kathleen Wynne really wanted to help Ontario Liberal candidates, she would have resigned the leadership a year ago. She knows she was as unpopular then as she is now. Yesterday's stunt, he did this Sunday, obviously. Yesterday's stunt wasn't selfless, it was reckless. Worst campaign ever. People are going to speculate about whether or not the Liberals are unpopular right now because of the platform, the party, the policies, or the leader. We know, and the Premier agrees, that the leader is the biggest problem right now. Mark, had there been a leadership race a year ago, and if the Liberals had a different leader in place today, would we be having this conversation?
Well, look, I'm going to go back to my point. I think we had great government in this province for the last 15 years. It's been courageous, all of those things, and I think we need to celebrate that. And I think Kathleen Wynne is the leader. I support my leader, and I want her right to the bitter end. That's my point.
You didn't support her when she ran.
Look, it doesn't matter. That's the beauty of delegated conventions. I didn't support her, but you know what? I support her.
Okay, but having said this, you and I have probably both spoken to a lot of people over the last 6 months who have said at one time or another, you know what? If we could have replaced Kathleen Wynne 12 months ago, we'd have a shot at this election.
My comment to that is, I don't care. The point is, we went into a campaign knowing that she was going to be our leader. Let's create the theme. The theme ought to be good government. And obviously, from what Tim is saying, it doesn't resonate. But at the end of the day, I think people want to see that they've got a leader who bleeds with them, and that's what I want to see.
I know Kathleen Wynne is your. How am I doing on time? 2 minutes to go. I know Kathleen Wynne is your leader. You like her. You admire her.
Yep.
All that stuff. Absolutely. But even she has acknowledged along the way, on this program too, as a matter of fact, that she did consider stepping aside for the good of the party if she thought somebody else had a better shot at winning. In hindsight, do you wish you had?
No.
Because?
Because I think because I actually think those are sort of, those counterfactuals are never really...
It's a hypothetical, for sure.
Yeah, it's a hypothetical. Counterfactual is just a fancy name for that. But I just think, you know what, people, to Mark's point, we had a very successful convention. I actually didn't support her in the convention either. I was a convert to the cause. She won an election no one expected to win.
Yeah.
Gave, as I agree with Mark on this, one of the most progressive governments we've seen, attended to the kind of issues people had in their daily lives to create a shared prosperity. And that was a pretty good record. And an amazing person, intelligent, engaged, frankly selfless, and this was a selfless act, having seen her struggle with it. Unquestionably, this was about her saying, how do I help Liberals get elected? And that's why she did it. And at the end, voters, though, make a choice, and they have, we'll see what they do on the 7th.
We shall. 3 days to go, Ms. Davis. Davis is a pretty good name in politics, incidentally.
It is.
Different party, but you know what I'm saying. The guy we named the studio after. Tim Murphy and Joanne Davis on that side of the table. Mark Keeley, Chief Advocate for KNA, on the other side of the table. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming to TVO tonight.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.